Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the EHS Unplugged podcast. My name is Vivianne Boaz. In today's episode, we are taking you guys through SOPs. I'll tell you what that means in full, but we are taking you through what SOPs are, why we need them, and we're also going to link them to health and safety. So allow me to welcome my guest for today. Karibu sana.
Okay, thanks Vivian. Thank you for having me. My name is Amos Muriuki. I'm a site engineer in charge of rollout in Huawei. And today I'm here to speak about SOPs, how to work professionally and how to be safe, how to ensure quality, and how to ensure that we get the best possible outcome for any task that we do.
Thank you, Amos. Karibu sana. I keep saying this, my guests usually come on a very short notice, and that shows how passionate they are about what I'm doing, about what they do on a daily. So, nashukuru sana. So, Amos, let's just dive in. What exactly are SOPs?
Okay, SOPs are standard operating procedures. Yeah. That is the acronym for SOPs. I will give a definition and say they are clear, concise instructions or step-by-step method on how to perform a particular task or a process. So SOPs are like the same way you give someone instruction on how to do ABCD. So now SOPs are the documented versions of those. You can also call them safe working method procedures, method statements, actually called SWIMs. And what SOPs target to do is ensure that the one who the SOP is addressed to knows what to do, how to do it, and how to do it in a safe and professional manner.
Yes.
So that's what SOPs are for. Yes.
Okay. So when do we develop SOPs? Do we do it at the start of a project, or do we or is it dependent on an industry? If there's a new technology, then we come up with an SOP, or?
Okay, what I can say, SOPs are living documents. And by living documents, I mean it needs to be updated periodically. So you can start an SOP when you are introducing a new process. You can either do it when you want to standardize a process. Maybe you go to a place, you find a process that has been, that there are no standards in it. So SOPs are usually created to create order in that process or order in that task that is supposed to be done. Another thing that can necessitate the creation of an SOP is in case of a new technology or a new method of doing things is realized in that industry, then SOPs are required so that you can have, you see, the SOPs, the work of an SOP is for you to have a desired outcome. If you leave it to chance, everyone will do the activity in his or her best way, and there will be myriad of outcomes. So what SOP tries to do is to ensure that we have a clear set goal of what we want to achieve, and have this desired outcome. So for you to achieve the desired outcome, we are going to give you a set of steps that you are going to follow so that you can achieve that desired outcome. Yes. So that's one of the needs. If you need, actually the main reason why we have SOPs is we need that desired outcome. And you also need to comply. You need quality output in the work that you have. You need to comply with industry regulations if there are any. To ensure compliance, you need to tell people this is the way you're supposed to do. If there are any industry regulations or industrial standards that are in the work that you're supposed to do. So mostly it's developed at the start. At the start of a process, the start of an industry, at the start of any new technology that has come into place. You need to develop that. So what you do, you usually contact SMEs, subject matter experts. That you need to also have the process owners, and you also need the guys, the target audience. That means the workers. Because remember, SOPs are living documents. What I mean by that is that even after you have maybe developed an SOP, you have launched it, you need feedback from the users.
Yes.
What works, what doesn't work, what can be done more effectively. Maybe SOP is describing this way, but on ground the workers find that you can still achieve the same results safely using this other method. You need to tweak here and here. And I think essentially SOPs is supposed to just improve the workplace. It's supposed to ensure that the users of that document achieve a desired outcome in the safest way possible, in the most effective way possible, to ensure quality is upheld, and to comply with any regulations that come with that task.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's SOPs are actually meant for such kind of scenario, whereby you need some form of, I would say, some form of stability in that field. Yes.
Okay. Now, do you think education, level of education, let me say level of education, competence, experience, plays a role in the rate at which an SOP is implemented?
Okay, there are two ways of looking at it. There's when an SOP is being created, that obviously you need competent people.
Yeah.
You need experts, you need process owners. But you also, in implementation, an SOP, the level of education actually comes to being when unpacking such SOPs. You see, one of the requirements that you're doing an SOP, you need the language to be conversant with the target audience.
Yeah.
Do not use any complex language. Do not use any corporate jargon that is not conversant with the guys on ground. But also the guys on ground need some level of literacy, so that you can also understand. Because one of the things is the audience must be, or the users, let's say the workers who the SOP is targeting to, must be able to unpack what's in that document. Must be able to fully understand what this document is trying to tell them. And if the level of education that you have should be of a certain degree, so that you can be able to understand what the SOP is telling you to do, what the SOP is telling you not to do. Another thing I wanted to speak about level of education is how you operate within SOPs is also very important, because the education, you see, if you try to explain an SOP of a certain task to a person who is not educated enough to understand what the task is about, it will be chasing the wind. Yes. So you need to ensure that those people who are, if you're using, you see, SOPs can be technical. There's a point in Africa, there's a point they reach and can be technical. So you need the person who is receiving that SOP to understand the technical terms associated with that SOP, maybe in construction, maybe in any other industry. There are technical terms that are used in that industry. And those technical terms which are possibly the ones that will appear in that document. So the audience or the worker down there needs to understand what does these technical terms mean. And I think that's where now you need some level of understanding, some level of education in terms of trying to unpack what the SOP is trying to tell you. Yes.
And so where does experience come in?
Experience actually is a very interesting concept. You see, you can gain experience through, most experience you actually gain it through doing the task repeatedly. But the main thing you're supposed to understand is that SOP is trying to add professionalism to experience. There are people who know how to do things. They know how to do things, but they don't know why they're doing it. There's some person who can tell you, I know how to do this. Then you say, why does it work that way? You say, no, you just know it works this way. This is how it's done.
And it's happening a lot. I know. I mean, I've been there.
And that's why you see, in my daily work, when I go to supervise these teams on ground, you go there and find a person has done something. It's working, but it's not been done professionally. And you ask them, now, why could you not have done it like this? Why would you not have done it this way and do it differently this way? Actually, you're supposed to do it this way. You're supposed to use these tools. And say, no, it's there. It's working. It's there. It's working. I have done it. Tell him, no, I know your experience. I know you have done this a lot, but you might be doing it in the wrong way and you don't know. And you see, that's why SOPs are there, because if we leave it to chance, everyone will do it their own way, their own creative way, the creative mind they have, they'll try and that's what you're trying to avoid, because this is an organization, and because too, if you leave creativity, if you give chance to creativity in the workplace, it's actually very risky in terms of high risk activities. High risk activities profit more from organization, from I'm trying to look for that word. It's more of like predictability. You try to control. Yes, you try to control the processes, and one of the ways in which you do process control is through SOPs. When you meet these SOPs, it's supposed to give you instructions of A, B, C, D for you to do this outcome. And remember, when you are creating SOPs, in one of the methods, one of the stages when you are creating SOPs, you need to do a task analysis. And you need to see, to identify any hazard and risk in that process that you're trying to standardize. You see this is the process, this is what I want to happen. Then you identify the risks associated with that process. Then from those risks is where now you create a method which will allow you to do that process, which at the same time allows you to manage or eliminate the risks that you have identified. And for that whole process, now that's where now SOPs comes into place. They give standard procedures on how to operate a task, operate a machine, because remember SOPs also applies to machines. How to operate a machine safely. And one of the main stages of SOP creation is task analysis, job hazard analysis, because you need to understand that as I give out these procedures, I need to give them out safely. This worker should be able to go to work. I need him to come back home. I need him, when he goes out, when he looks at the work that he has done, it's something that is of quality and something that is of standard. Standard meaning, if today worker A does not get in, worker B will come and do the same thing and they'll have the same result. I'll not have worker B come in, then I'm wondering what happened. And that is one of the main advantages of SOP, even in training. If maybe a new workforce, remember, one of the ways in which SOPs are actually created, if we have maybe a team of people doing a particular process and they get good at it. You see, after you do a process repeatedly, you'll get good at it. You'll create, you'll know a more efficient and effective way of doing it. Maybe the place where you work or the thing that you do. After a while, after gaining experience, you'll know of an effective way of, or an efficient way of doing things. But now, if I leave it at that, when you leave that company and go away, how will I get advantage of that process that you had already simplified? Yes.
True.
So that is where SOPs come. That's why I was sending you SOPs are living documents, so that if an employee goes or a team goes or a team is not there, you still get the same result if another team comes and does the same thing. And that's why SOPs are, they're actually even the materials that you use for training when you are onboarding a new team. Telling this, this is where, and you see SOPs are very, you need, one of the good practices of SOPs, you need to create it to the organization, because outside here there are published documentation on how to do things generally. The industry-wide best guidelines. But you need to tailor SOPs as much as possible to the organization that you're doing. So that even if a new staff comes in, you tell them, in this organization you do things
like this.
And that documents that process. It's called an SOP. And that's why you usually say SOP you should try and avoid as much as possible. Should not be ambiguous. Should be very clear. Should be detailed. It's what separates it from just general. Usually there are general guidelines of how to do things. Best practices. But SOP is not best practice document. It's a step-by-step that considers those best practices. But now it tells a worker on the ground, when you're doing this task, I'm expecting to do A, B, C, D. It also contains the tools that are required. So there's the part for steps, then there's the tools. For you to do this task, you should have been provided by these tools. And there's also the desired outcome. Pale chini nakwambia, these are the outcome, this is what is required, the outcome of the process that you're supposed to do. If it's installing, maybe for my field, if it's installing an FAT, if it's installing a distribution box, there's a way you're supposed to install it, there's some guidelines you're supposed to check out for, and there's what I'm expecting. And there's also SOP enables you to give a positive experience to customer.
Yes.
You see? A customer, the client that you are serving, is able to enjoy your services because he or she knows that there will be quality work in the workforce. This is what I'm expecting. When I'm giving this company work, according to what they have shown me in their documents, this is how they do work, this is what I'm expecting at the end of the project. And SOPs enables you to ensure that that process is formed, quality is formed, is observed, so that at the end of the day you have an outcome that you can all be proud of. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. So the challenges, when you talk about SOPs, what are the main challenges, especially when it comes to implementation?
One of the challenges of SOP, I would say, is first of all, the understanding of the workers in terms of, in as much as SOP documents are concerned. Most of the places, when I go on ground, as I've told you, I found most of the workers, their experience, they have been there 5-6 years. And this is very peculiar to, especially in Kenya. You see, in Kenya, most people know things through, I would say, apprenticeship.
Yes.
You go, you shadow someone for a few 2-3 years, and then you are considered an expert. But you need some iota of formal, I would say, formal way of doing things, and that's what SOP tries to understand. So when I go to ground, I find someone has done work and he has done it, but then he has not done it professionally. And you see, the reason for SOPs is that the moment you compromise on quality, that in itself is an EHS risk.
It is.
That's a hazard.
It is. It is.
And you see, that's why we have buildings falling. Because I'm pretty sure, especially in the construction industries, there are very clear SOPs on how to do work. But now, the problem, the issue with the apprenticeship, or the issue, not actually the issue with the apprenticeship, the issue with most workers that I've found is that they like shortcuts. You see now, the SOP, because it's a clear step, it may take longer than how you do it on the field. But when people are on the field, they use their own shortcuts to try and achieve the same results in a shorter time. But now the problem is they do not achieve the same results. They achieve another result that looks like the same, but it's actually not good. So that's one of the main challenges I face is people translating SOP document to the ground. There are people who maybe they don't understand the SOP document. The people who are not, they do not even know what are SOPs. They don't know what are SOPs. They don't know that this thing is supposed to be done this way, not this way. And I think that's one of the main things that needs to be emphasized. If the SOP is in place, we need trainings, and try to sensitize the team that SOPs are very important for their safety and for the quality of work that they want to do.
Okay. So because you've talked of costs and then also timelines being affected in the process. Now, I think this is what management is also missing, that if they don't push for work to be done as per the SOP, at the end of the day, they're the ones who suffer financially. I think we should maybe, just show them, if you have an SOP, please ensure that your employees understand what's in that SOP. You do your trainings so that they are fully aware. So when they go on site, they implement that site as per the SOP. Otherwise, as Amos has said, you'll find yourself going back to site. And then that means you will have to fuel your vehicle, you will have to pay the employees again, and probably you will have to bring the site engineer back to site for another inspection, and that's cost.
You see, for when you are creating SOPs, one of the, I would say, shareholders should be C-level suits, C-level, corporate level management, or the management. You see, for you to create SOPs, it's a balancing act. You need to take quality into place. And quality definitely follows cost. Cost follows quality. So, one of the things is you need to create a method that achieves the result in the most effective way possible. So they give direction during SOP creation on this is how we can do things that will be of affordable cost to us and still maintain quality and safety. Another thing that the management comes into play is that you need to ensure that your workers follow the organization's SOPs. Because as you have said, there will be repeat works, there will be customer dissatisfaction. Because remember, customer has expectations of the kind of product they're expecting. Yeah. Especially in a construction type of product, whereby a customer gives you a scope, you execute, and then they come at the end to accept that what you have executed. It's a process. So imagine finding yourself where the customer comes on ground to maybe inspect a site you have finished, and then he's disappointed or he's not happy with what you have done. It will affect even your future scopes. You see, and it will also make acceptance not go through, because customers will make you repeat a site, a full site. If they reject a site, you'll have to start from scratch. And SOPs is one of the ways which you try and manage that, because if you leave it like that, then you don't know what will come out of each person's work. But SOP will help you predict what will come out of this process. So management needs to be very much involved in ensuring, one, during SOP creation, they need to be told these are what is expected. These are the processes that we need to take place, so that they can know what is expected of that SOP, what is the cost of implementing that SOP. Because they need to facilitate for the tools, they need to facilitate for the environment of that, for environment that will enable the worker to execute such SOP. 3, they need to also, you see, when you do project planning, standard operating procedures usually, especially for lengthy process, you usually try to give it a time factor. Let's say, for example, when you are doing concreting, you give it maybe 2 to 3 or 4 days, determining on the mixture that you have used and whatnot, and the different inputs. You need, there are SOPs that have a time factor in it. So when you're doing planning, you need to also include that time factor during project timelines. You cannot expect to deliver a project maybe in 5 days, and there's a process that is taking 4 days according to SOPs. Because if you try to force it now, they will start using shortcuts. Instead of waiting for that process to end in 4 days as the SOP has dictated, they try to do it in 3 days. And that you run the risk of non-quality works, non-safe works, and customer dissatisfaction. You see, so the management needs to understand the SOP themselves. What I'm in my management position in this organization. How do we do things? You know, there's no way you can be in management. I don't know how do we do things.
Very important, because it's an issue, really.
Yes, when I facilitate these guys outside there to go and do work, what does the customer expect? Does the SOP that we have translate to customer expectation? And I think that is why even during SOP creation, you need to include those people who face the customer side in that SOP creation, because customer has his own standards. And the SOP has to be aligned such that you try not to, do not, I will say what, do not peg your SOP so much on the customer side, because you'll face different clients who have different needs. But you make sure that the SOPs that you're creating is quality, such that for any client who comes in your way in terms of wanting to give you work, can check on the way you do things and be satisfied.
Yeah. So let me. Normally, when we're creating awareness, or we're doing trainings on SOPs, the focus has been on the employees themselves. I mean, the people who are implementing a scope, but we never focus on top management. But you guys forget that when you exclude top management, these are the guys who are financing the project. If they're not able to understand the duration of a project, what is required, those nitty-gritties, and then fund it, as per what the SOP would entail, then really, don't you think that you're missing the whole point? We're supposed to rope them in.
They are supposed to be included right from the SOP creation to SOP implementation, because doing things professionally, usually you need to facilitate. It needs to be facilitated.
Yeah.
So that if a worker comes and says, according to the SOP, I need tool A, B, C, D, E, F, then the management will be able to
provide.
Yes. Because you see, if you send a worker there without tool A, B, C, D, E, F, he does it with A up to E. I'll come and say repeat that work because it does not meet standards. Then the management will have to put that cost again to send people back to the ground to repeat that same thing.
Yeah.
So management needs to ensure, one, the workforce or the target audience of that standard operating procedure document has been facilitated in terms of, first of all, training. They need to be aware what they're supposed to do. Two, tools. They need to be given the tools, the proper tools, proper PPE, because remember, SOPs also touch on PPE.
Yeah, they're very clear per task.
Yes.
What type of?
If it's a chemical substance SOP, there are PPEs for that. In my field also, there is PPE for when you working at height, when there is splicing, when there is everything.
Works. Yeah, true. Okay.
So it's up to management to ensure that that workforce has all the required tools, all the required awareness and training. And you need to create that environment which enables people to. You see, even for project, the PM, as he's trying to allocate different resources, he needs to be backed up by management. So that he or she can be able to execute this task in the most effective way possible, considering the timelines that we have. Because the industry, timelines very short. But that should not be an excuse for you not to do quality work.
Yes, no, never an excuse.
Yes.
So Amos, let's rope in now health and safety.
SOPs and safety hand in hand. Safety, EHS is the first consideration when you're creating SOPs. Because remember, these are clear set instructions on how to do a task safely. You are minimizing the likelihoods of any injuries, likelihoods of any incidents or accidents. And one of the ways you need to minimize that is through standard operating procedures. Something that is predictable. A process that is predictable. Another thing is SOPs ensures quality. And quality, there's a reason why it is called QEHS. That Q.
Quality, environment, health, and safety.
That Q, SOPs tries to maintain that Q while considering that EHS. How do you manage to build something that is of quality in the safest way possible? That is what SOPs actually, that is the basic of what SOPs answers. And you see, for the place where for the teams that I manage and the place where I work, if you do something, if the people on ground do not understand what is required of them in terms of quality and safety, it will be a risk inherent to third party and to other partners. Like now, for me, the place where I work, you do a site, you maintain it for a while, Then you hand it over to another partner who maintains that site. So if I come and do a site just the way, I compromise on quality. It might not affect me. I might finish the site and go home. You get paid, go home. Then the maintenance partner who comes after me finds that I've done something that compromises on his or her safety. I'm supposed to do this and this. I've done it wrongly. I've gone away with it. And then the person who comes after me comes and finds I did work the wrong way. You see, I'm also compromising on their safety.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have need to ensure that the works that we do is the works that are quality. Because if as I'm chasing safety in my teams, I also need to make sure that they do quality work because they go tandem. Quality works will always ensure that the teams that are currently working on that task are safe, and the teams that will follow after I've left will come and find that they can continue working with what I have built because it's of quality standard. It's like these houses. People came, built a house, they left without building a quality house. It comes to affect the residents later when the house falls and they are.
Because I think that is something people never consider. Because even for me, we have an SOP, right? We actually, for us, as let me talk about SMEs. They are mostly subcontractors. They're working with a contractor. Then there's a client. So the customer has an SOP. You guys also develop yours as per the client's requirements.
Yes.
The client says, I want this product. Then you guys go and sit down and say, to get this perfect product, what are the steps? And how do I ensure my teams are safe in the process, right? But we never consider after you're done and you've handed over your scope. What happens to the party that comes after?
Yes.
That's a very good point.
Yes.
Because somehow you could be, as a company, responsible for deaths without even knowing it.
Yes. That is why SOPs are very important. They need to be followed to the letter because they ensure that you have left good work. You have left work that can carry on for generations. If you're building something, if you're building a house and you've done it professionally with all the requirements in place, even if you leave that house, you know this house will stay here for 25, 30 years. It will not develop even a crack.
You know, this also reminds me, yesterday my shower just, 1 minute it was just releasing, hot water. And the next minute it was cold. So I thought maybe there's an element there that was corroded or had some rust. So I called in the electrician. So I was expecting the electrician would resolve this issue. It's just an issue with the shower. Then he tells me it's actually not the shower. It's how the whole the whole connection was done. And I asked him, there's supposed to be a process like testing and determining that there's quality. And he tells me there's no way of knowing that. You can only know their poor work from this.
We are trying to, SOP tries, you see, as I was telling you, experienced, there are many people who they know how to do things, but they don't know how to do it correctly. Because one of the distinctive factor that differentiates an experienced person and a professional person is SOPs actually. Because SOPs are the one which tells you how to do things the correct way, standard way. Because remember, SOPs also factor in best practices, international best practices. There are guidelines that are already there. There is industry regulations that are already there. And SOP is all that combined into a step-by-step process. It has already considered all that. So when you're implementing SOPs, a well-constructed SOP should be able to cover you from all that. If you do it as per the way the SOPs are detailed, then you know this will be of quality, this will meet industry regulations, this will be safe for me, the current working party, and the future working party. Because I can tell you, if you, right now, if you go outside there and see a big crack on a house, you won't enter.
I know.
I know the first thing that comes into mind, poor workmanship.
Yeah.
There's someone here who slept on the job. There's someone here who took shortcuts.
Very true.
And that's what SOPs try to avoid.
Yeah.
If you leave it to creativity, people will take shortcuts. But SOP is there to guide people, and that's why we encourage organizations to ensure that you create SOPs for each and every process that you have, so that way you can get order. There's comfort in some predictability in what you do, especially in high risk works. High risk works requires a lot of predictability, requires control. You know, you send someone to do a job. This is what is expected to do. This is the outcome I'm expecting them to this is the desired outcome that I'm expecting from what they're doing.
So, Amos, let me ask you one last question. When you mention, to me, an SOP, I know the importance, right? But I also feel that it limits on creativity. I know, creativity, also creates room for unsafe acts, unsafe conditions, and then accidents. I know, but we have very creative people in the industry.
Yes.
So he comes and then he finds that, yes, your SOP is good, it's detailed, it covers everything, but there's a better way of doing it. How do we incorporate all these new ways of doing things?
Remember when I started, they said SOP is a living document. And one of the, you see, there's that process of creating SOPs. And the beauty of SOPs, the best way to create of SOPs, you make sure there's a feedback loop, such that the target audience have a chance in creating of that SOPs. So maybe there's an SOP for doing this kind of scenario. You have done it. I've given it to you as my target audience. You have done it a few times. You have found a better and efficient way of doing it. The SOP should allow for feedback. You can come and talk to the organization and tell these are the SOPs that we have, but there's a better and efficient way of doing it. And then you can go the whole process of, they can just review and see if they can update the SOP should not be a static document. It should be always be because remember, there will be new technologies. I can create an SOP today, then tomorrow a new technology comes, makes my I built an SOP for this technology. It's now obsolete.
True.
Or a new technology has come that is replacing this one. You see, now I have to cater in this new technology or this new thing that has happened. So in the same way, if there is an efficient way of doing things, then SOP should not be static, it should not be updated. The only thing is you need to have guidelines on what to check on. That's that efficient way you have discovered. You need to do analysis on it and see if there are any new risk and hazard now introduced by the new way in which you have proposed.
Yeah. So I know this is not part of our conversation, but do you think psychological safety comes in? Because this document was developed by experts, right? So like for us, we're in a very high risk industry. We're working in close proximity to power lines. That is very risky. Tunasemanga stima si maziwa. So in such a scenario, that there's an SOP for that. I mean, it's not really likely to change because the risks almost remain the same throughout the life of the project, right? So for this feedbacking system, do you think psychological safety comes in? Because now you have to have a culture where you're allowing people to have that freedom to be able to come to Amos and say, Amos, najua SOP yako inasema hivi na hivi, but I have this better way of doing it. You know very well there are some cultures that don't give you that room to voice.
Okay, for psychological safety, it's very important. You see, for you to be in a position to execute what I'm telling you to execute, you need to be, psychological safety has to be considered. I think one of the things I was talking to the team the other day is that even during TBTs, you should have like a session of psychological safety where the supervisor checks on the welfare of each member before. Because you see, for most people, they come to TBT, It entails checking of the tools maybe, and explaining the scope, the risk. But nobody asks, are you okay to do the job today?
Yeah, no one does. I mean, even you haven't asked me today if people overlook psychological safety, but I think it's really key too.
It's really key, because it may be even be doing TBT and someone is there. It's just sad. And the supervisor has not yet asked, what's wrong? What's wrong? Why are you not jovial? You're starting, it's a new day, you're doing work. And psychological safety, you see, when you're doing high risk works, one of the things you try to ensure you have is clarity of mind. Clarity of mind is very important. You need to be focused on the task at hand. And the well-being of you as a person who is undertaking that activity needs to be considered, because it will come again to affect teammates, the work that you're doing, and the ability of you to operate in a professional way. So for now, I need to give an SOP for checking on psychological safety can also be created.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe
instructions on how to check or what to look out for, how to approach that issue. Because I think one of the things that leads to awareness also is how to approach psychological safety, because it touches more on the human side than the, I won't say mechanized work, than the notion of repetitive work and how to do things and SOPs and your professional skills. Psychological safety touches now on the other side of emotions, of bit of feelings, and the mental state.
Yes.
And I think one of the things people need to take to create awareness of is how to approach such issues. Because I'm pretty sure most people are clueless.
Yeah, I think I was saying the other day, that's why most some top management, they're not very comfortable touching on that issue, because they don't have that training, they don't have that experience dealing with such issues.
It's dealing with people now. You're not dealing with timelines and projects, and now it's dealing with people.
Person.
Yes, and now that's where now most people kidogo they feel. But I think more awareness needs to be created around psychological safety on two aspects: how to approach it in terms of the human side, because remember, the way you approach psychological safety is different from the way you approach maybe work at height safety. Because for the other task on the ground, there are very clear, concise rules. Don't do this, don't do this. But for psychological safety, you need to consider the person you're talking to.
It's a scary, very, very scary area.
And also another part of psychological safety where people now we need to create awareness of, or create an environment for, is the affected party to speak up.
Yeah, true.
Remember, for you to diagnose any mental state of a person, the person themselves needs to give you room to examine his mental state or her mental state. And the only way he can give you room is to express what is inside.
Yeah. And when they're expressing, they need to know that Amos will not judge me.
Yes.
Oh, guys.
That is now the first, you've gone back to my first point, how to approach. I need to be approachable for you to feel free to allow me to help you.
So first of all, you need to build that trust.
Yes.
Really important.
That trust is required. And I think with the awareness, people will get more comfortable. But for now, people...
We're not there yet.
Hey, we're not there yet. Yeah. We're not there yet. And then I think that's one of the things the managements need to pick up. If you create that culture and that environment that allows people to trust each other, and you can trust your management, then I think psychological safety will take a long step away. But for now, if organization comes to a place where there's no that there's clearly defined roles for everyone. There's management roles, there's project team roles, and they need to respect each other. But you also need to create a trust-based communication. That it can be top down or bottom up.
But guys, Amos will not say that out loud, but I hope you guys have learned. He's touched on a lot. I mean, I feel like I'm leaving this conversation a changed person because he's touched on what SOPs are, why they're important, what the challenges are, and remember for him, he does this on a daily. He is implementing sites at the moment and is, facing all these challenges that he's been sharing with us. So I hope you've picked a thing or two here and there, and you're going to apply them in the areas that you are involved in. So, Amos, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing that knowledge that you continue to acquire. So tunashukuru sana. So anything that you have for the guests, just a parting shot.
I've had much fun talking to you, trying to impart my knowledge to you and the audience at large. And what I would like to say is that in our workplace, in our sites, we try to achieve a safe and professional workplace. Another thing I wanted to add also is on psychological safety. I think it's very important. It's one of the topics that I think should come at the forefront in terms of ensuring that in as much as we do work, we also ensure that we do work with the right state of mind. But it was very much fun talking to you, and I'm very happy that I've been given a chance to impart my experience, yes, and the audience at large. Yes, but I think professional work is very important.
That's the way to go.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you guys for joining. See you. We upload episodes every Friday around 6 p.m. Sometimes we go up to 7 p.m. but it's 6 p.m. every Friday because it's a weekly podcast. So thank you very much for joining. Bye-bye.